before we start, I want you to take a deep breath. You have this desire to write your memoir for a reason, and you get to trust that desire. I firmly believe that if you want to write a memoir, then you are meant to write your memoir. However, you are also facing the pressure to get it right, to find the right way to tell your story, to make it through every gate and milestone of the publishing industry just to get your story into the hands of readers. And on top of that, you're required to revisit parts of your life that may hold pain, grief, and sorrow. Underneath this whole process may lie a sneaking belief that what you have to share might not be interesting or compelling enough for a reader. You might be at a point where you are feeling insecure about the fact that you're writing about yourself and your feelings and your experiences, and who cares? The ironic thing about memoir writing is that the more time you spend thinking and writing about yourself, the more you invite that insecurity into your process. So today we get to change the entire narrative around memoir writing, which will change how you show up and what you actually write. Here's where you get to shift, my friend. Your memoir isn't actually about you. It's not even about what happened to you. Your memoir is about what you did with what happened to you, and here's the important part, the conversation you want to have about it. Okay. I want you to think about when you feel the most creative. When do you feel the most comfortable, the most excited? And this is really about the first prompt in this activation, is what lights you up? This is such a simple question, and it's one that I really want you to pay attention to. As a creative writer, it is essential to pay attention to what lights you up, because that is where your creativity will flow the most. You will not always be inspired when you sit down to write. In fact, if you wait to be inspired to tell you when you should be writing, then you will never really make progress. Inspiration is very, very fickle. And relying on it to get your memoir finished and complete and published is not going to cut it. It's important as a writer to be able to produce work and content even when you are not feeling it at first. So yes, the discipline in this process really does matter. So what you're writing about, though, that's the driver behind your discipline and your inspiration. When you are convicted in what you're writing about, then the inspiration becomes a nice to have. It sometimes even becomes inevitable, but it does not become the element of the process that you rely on. You'll be able to work past writer's block and inspiration blocks when you are writing about something that you are obsessed with. Your obsession is the key to unlocking that creative flow, even when you're not feeling inspired right away. If you don't know off the top of your head what I even mean by what lights you up, I want you to think about how you feel when you're having fun. When you are fully present, when something just feels right, how does that feel in your body? There is an alignment that will happen in your body when you are lit up. It will feel like puzzle pieces clicking into place. It feels light. You don't feel resistance. For me, I feel like I need to start moving and doing something when I'm lit up and activated. So when my creativity lights up, I'm almost compelled to the computer or a journal to get the ideas out while they are flowing. I'll get really talkative and I want to bounce ideas off of the people around me. I'm a person who, when I am lit up, I am activated. I start moving and thinking. So I want you to pay attention to what draws your attention. What makes your energy perk up? What makes you lean in and want to know more? When you can pay attention to when you feel that pull, when you feel that switch turning on in your body, in your brain, that is the first stage in writing a magnetic memoir. Once you have your radar attuned to those areas and those topics that light you up, I want you to notice other people and other spaces who are having similar conversations. So that's your second prompt. Who else is having similar conversations? The magical thing about thinking more conceptually like this is that no one is really having a new conversation. Everyone's having very similar conversations. They're just conducted in very different manners and with very different intentions. So I want you to think about your friends and family. What topics come up with them that you enjoy talking about? Also, what topics come up that you want to avoid because you don't like how they have that conversation? If you're in a public place, what kind of conversations do you like to eavesdrop in on or even insert yourself into? I'm thinking of when I'm at a bookstore and another shopper will be considering one of my favorite books. I almost always step in to conversation with this stranger to insert a plug for my favorite book. You can even look at your algorithm on your phone. What posts do you like to engage with on social media? What content makes you laugh and makes you want to share it? Don't latch onto the content that gets you ragey or gets you in your ego. Again, that's not the kind of obsession, the kind of passion that will lead to a magnetic memoir, at least for the readers that you care about. Remember what we just talked about with feeling lit up and activated. What content out there activates you and makes you feel like yourself? What could you read about all day? What do you love to talk about with your partner? What ideas or thoughts do you text your friends about? And conversely, what conversations drain you? What spaces do you avoid because you don't like how you feel when you are in that conversation that's being conducted in that way? What do you wish weren't in your algorithm? And how are those topics connected to the ones that you care about the most? Again, there are very few truly novel conversations out there, and most of them are all connecting to each other. And so even the conversations that we resist a bit or don't feel comfortable in are also still connected to the ones that we care about. So the second prompt is all about noticing where your attention goes when you are activated, when you are feeling lit up and creative. What spaces do you naturally put yourself in when you are feeling in the creative zone? Or what conversations will activate you when you're in a funk? What spaces will you actually pay to be a part of? So we're taking the first prompt, noticing what topics make you feel creative, what makes you feel lit up, and then taking that into your life right now to identify where you find those conversations that are already happening. What insights do you like to share in these spaces and conversations? Where do you feel like you have something to contribute and share? And this leads us to the final prompt of this activation. Why did you start caring about this conversation? The topics that we are passionate about have a root in our lived life. You can trace what you care about the most to something that happened to you and what you did or didn't do with it. Our stories create the conversations that we care about. And so when you're writing your memoir, that's where your focus should be. Not how can I make my life sound interesting, but what about this experience informs what I care about now? Like I said a couple of minutes ago, the conversations that you opt into will either drain you or activate you. You want to write about things that activate you because that's where you become magnetic as a writer, attracting the people who care about the conversation in the same way that you do. Let's connect the dots. We're going to name what lights you up. Where are you already finding that conversation that you care about? Where are you already finding those things that light you up? And where, for you, did that conversation begin? That is your memoir. Your answers to those questions, that's your memoir. Let's connect this back to your memoir manuscript. If you are feeling stuck in your memoir draft, wondering if what you're writing is interesting or compelling, or if you're doubting that anyone would care enough to read it, you are not activated enough as an author. You're focusing on the wrong parts of the process. You've lost sight of why you actually need to write your memoir, why you're supposed to write your memoir. You haven't locked into why your story matters, and your story matters to your reader because of the conversation that it fosters. So what is that conversation? Knowing that is what will make your memoir magnetic. That's what will make drafting and revising smooth and focused. When you write your story as a voice inside of an existing conversation, then you already know that readers are waiting, because remember, very few cultural conversations are new. Most of them are different iterations of familiar, well-worn topics. But why you care about it and what you have to say about those topics, that's what will make you stand out and magnetize the readers who most need your voice and your story. When you are obsessed with what you're saying with your story, again, go back to what you can't stop talking about. That's what will lock in your entire memoir draft and make you feel amazing about what you're creating and passionate about who you're creating it for. Go into the PDF that's attached to this prompt pack, and I'll have these prompts listed out for you. Writing a magnetic memoir is as much about observation and noticing as it is about creative activation and showing up to the page with that energy. Combine them both, and your entire experience as a memoir author will transform. What you write will transform, and your publishing timeline will become clear because you're finally clear on what you're saying. It's my favorite thing about this job, about being a memoir editor, is helping you figure out your conversation and then helping you write it and make sure that you're saying it the way that you want to say it in a way that sounds like you. You've got this. I'll see you soon.